Are we live? I don't know if we're live or not. It doesn't say we're live on mine. Let me close this out and restart. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Now we're live. All right, everybody. I don't know if we were live for a minute there or not. It seemed like we were, but it took me a minute to get there. All right, let me get set up on my comments. All right, the Zine Machine. We got Art Knight. Hello. Dade, hello. I really don't like these new way they got these names up here now. It makes it even harder for me to read them. All right, I went from 18 people to 5. That was a big jump. Thought we were starting off with a crowd tonight. I am Dandalf. All right, let's see. TK, hello. Laura, hello. All right, Laura, don't let me forget to trim that damn plant tonight. This will be the 3rd live stream in a row that I've said I was going to trim that plant, and I have yet to. Mike. Yeah, I really don't like the way these new names are. It's going to take me a while to get used to the way they look, and they're even smaller than they used to be, so my old man eyes are struggling even more. All right, let's get right into it. We're going to assume the position. Does anybody else get the assume the position reference? I was talking to Zini a little while ago, and he said he was going to assume the position, meaning he was going to prepare for the live stream. And my first thought, I immediately jumped to the movie Animal House. But there was a DJ when I was young. I've talked about him before. His name was Grease Man. And he always used to talk about assuming the position. He would usually do it in the, he would do like skits where he would play characters. And he always played a crooked cop pulling people over. And, and he would quite often tell them to assume the position. Or he would also tell them to tell it to the judge, if you get my meaning. Half-baked. Did they say, again, assume the position has just become part of the lexicon, but I'm pretty sure that originated from Animal House, and I don't think Zini is familiar with Animal House. Animal House was a John Landis movie. I know you don't know who John Landis is, but he did some classic comedy movies back in the day. Now, by today's standards, Animal House would probably be unacceptable on many levels. But back then, it was one of the greatest comedy movies ever made. So all of those comedy movies you see where they're like college party kids and there's always college antics and all that stuff, all of those can be traced almost directly back to the movie Animal House. All right, let's see who else we got. Rosie, hello. I was in here with my wife last night, Laura, just looking around. We were talking about maybe removing the one plant that I brought down here and swapping it out with something different. And the first thing she said when she walked in, she's like, "Oh my, look at this." And she started like touching the dragon's tongue and just, she can't believe how big it is growing out of that pot. And of course I told her that it was, it was due for a trim. I just keep forgetting to do it. Neil, hello. Robert, hello. All right, Laura, you have good time with your family, and I won't take offense if you opt to turn the volume down while you got your family there or whatever. I won't take offense at that. Remember, my mom very wisely watches my live stream every week with the volume down so she can support me by giving me the view, but doesn't actually have to hear anything I say. So, all right, let's get that plant trimmed up. And we're going to use these very special gardening tools. And we're going to use the very delicate, finely honed technique. We're going to start by giving it a bowl cut. Go around the edge like Moe from the Three Stooges. And then we're going to give it a little bit of a flat top. Missed one. So there you go. Watch how fast that grows back. And that was a brutal cutting. I guess I shouldn't have bothered to feed the goldfish tonight. Although I had to put food in there because while the goldfish will absolutely destroy that, the other fish in the tank still need to eat too. So over the next few live streams, you will undoubtedly see me getting down into the pump to unclog the pump because this is going to really clog that pump up. The goldfish tend to eat all of the leaves off, but then they leave the stems in there, and as the stems get soft and kind of start to rot away, they make their way into that pump and they clog it all up. Oh, we've also got a treat tonight. I don't know why, but it just occurred to me today that like I've got good weed now. I can actually make real hash oil instead of that garbage I've been making forever. So tonight we actually have some real quality hash oil. So we're going to be doing dabs tonight instead of smoking a joint. But I also brought in my THC juice, so we'll start by vaping on that a little bit. Could hire me out as a fog machine. All right, let's move on to the fancy goldfish tank. Don't have anything really on my mind tonight. I honestly didn't even know if I was going to do a live stream right up till about 7 o'clock. So I decided, why not? It's not like I'm doing anything else. But I don't really have anything on my mind. I was trying to come down and get, some fish thoughts going on in my head. I told my wife good night like half an hour ago, and I came down here and I was going to mill around the fish room and look at stuff. But I got to chatting with Zini, and he's a bad influence on me. And he was making me think about stuff that I don't want to talk about. So we'll definitely, I did talk about the assume the position, though. I did promise him we'll talk about that. Now you guys are going to have 90s dance music in my head. Oh, I got you, Laura. I see what you're saying. Yeah, the fish are going to be busy as hell on that. That is so much plant material in the pond that some of that'll even still be there tomorrow. It won't be there on Tuesday, but it'll probably still be there tomorrow. I am blaming it on Zini, Neil. I never did get any fish thoughts coming down. Well, hang on a minute. I need to blow my nose because I'm already starting to laugh. I didn't even take any mushrooms tonight. I didn't do any mushrooms last night either. Two reasons. The main one being that I didn't particularly feel like it. And so I laid down and took a nap, and I said, well, I'll see how I feel when I get up. I usually wake up from my nap around 6 or 6:30, but I overslept, and it was not until I got a dead gourami over here. We were counting the gouramis the other night, and I couldn't find all of them, and now I see a dead one on the tank. So we'll get to that when we get around to the gourami tank. But I woke up from my nap late. It was already 7 o'clock, and I thought, oh shit! And I got up feeling all groggy. And then when I actually got my phone in my hand and I walked into the kitchen, like both my phone and the kitchen said it was 20 of 8. And I realized the battery in my clock, it's just a wall clock with, it's a face clock. And the battery was running low. And so it was 40 minutes behind. I woke up at almost 8 o'clock yesterday from my nap. And I still didn't feel like doing the mushrooms. But at that point, it was so late in the day, I was like, fuck it. I'm not even going to worry about it. So I didn't. I was back in bed by midnight. And then tonight, I just wasn't really in the mood with the doing the mushrooms tonight. So I didn't. Oh, I love you, Zini, but I'm still blaming you for distracting me. So far, the new fish look good. Young Stitches, hello, how are you? Oh, I love Zini. He knows I love him. But, facts are facts. I came down here to think about fish stuff. Now, in fairness, it was me that, started the conversation with him. So I guess it's not entirely fair to blame him. I could have just come down here and, stayed focused and done fish stuff. But I got to chatting, and that's what I get. So the other topic, he gave me two topics that he wants me to talk about. One of them we're definitely not talking about, but the other one was that I've been thinking about all day today is conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists and, critical thinking and all that kind of stuff. So if you want me to talk about that, let me know and I will. But that doesn't seem like the kind of topic people would tune into this show for. Although I don't fucking have any idea what anybody tunes into this show for. I say some things that I think are going to make everybody leave, and I get a bunch of laughs. I say other things that I think are completely benign, and 7 people evaporate. So I long ago gave up trying to figure out what people want. But I'm reasonable. The fish fam is always greener. Gamer, how are you? Yeah, I know, Mike. It has been a long time since I've done a good one, but I'm not always listening to new music and stuff. I've got a limited repertoire. And to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of times when I listen to music before I go live, I'm not listening to what I particularly wanted to listen to. I will spend time in the shower thinking about what would be a good band to be the music challenge tonight, and then I'll come down and listen to them. So I'm not lying to you when I say this is what I was listening to before I went live. But if it might be something I'm not necessarily in the mood for, but I don't want to do ABBA again, But I'm one of those people. I listen to the same shit over and over again, and again, I'll get on a kick where I'm just like, the last 3 live streams in a row, I was listening to Three Dog Night before we went live. Like, how many times can I do Three Dog Night? Tonight, I was actually chatting with Zini and watching an old black and white Doctor Who before we went live, so I got nothing tonight. I wasn't even listening to music. But I'll admit it has been a while. The last couple of times I've done the music challenge, though, I haven't even gotten anybody offering any guests, and it just sort of got forgotten about. So I just kind of thought that was one of those things that's getting old. Can't do the same shtick all the time. Smoke time indeed. I've got good dabs for tonight. Hey, Eugene. She's a lot like you now. No, I didn't actually listen to any music tonight. But I did put the music challenge out there the other night. And if I was listening to music tonight, it would have been this guy, so I can do him again. And I don't really know what to tell you. He's from New Orleans. I've talked about him before. Again, I listen to a lot of the same music. He's from New Orleans. He does music that is kind of original. It's sort of jazz. It's sort of Cajun Creole sounding. A little bit of blues thrown in there. He goes by the Night Tripper, and the piano player, the leader of the band from the Muppets, was named after him. Oh, Zini's got an excellent UK rap suggestion for you. You will love them. Even I like them, and I don't like rap music. All right, we're going to start this tank with some crisps. Actually, we're going to start this tank by getting you straightened up. I couldn't see the monitor when I was positioning the camera. I'll give everybody a second and they will come back. So if you missed me talking about it earlier, I kind of gave up on doing dabs after a while. I used to vape all the time rather than smoke. But I went through that shitty period of all that shitty weed that had the mites all over it. And some of the stuff was outdoors and it was just garbage. It was, it did the trick, but it tasted like shit. And it was just nasty. And so today I realized, even though it's not cured, I do actually still have some plant that I just cut down that's really good. So I made myself a batch of real hash oil tonight. So we're going to have some quality there. So that's what we'll be doing dabs out of. And I think this was a Tropicana cookies, but I'm not 100% sure. It was the one that was in my, if you follow along, the one that was in my tent that was real tall. And I kept saying that the buds were like really sort of thin and stretchy. That's the plant it was. Oh, and speaking of that, I want to show you my other plant tonight too, because it's fucking astonishing how big the bud on this thing is. So if you want to see a gigantic bud that's not even close to done yet, sit tight. We'll look at that in a minute. That's actually not a bad idea, Ark. I just don't like new things. And so, new road, bad. That's true, Eugene. If I did do what you told me, then I would have done what you told me, and you would have got it right. All right, let's see. What's the name of your rap dudes there, Zini? Baz, and what's his name? The Air Bubbles in the 125, Pete and Baz, that's their names. If you want to listen to some good UK rap, there you go, Pete and Baz. The bubbles on the right are still bubbling fairly well, but it's not a lot. That air stone over there, you can barely see it. I don't even know if you can see it from where you are. But it doesn't put out a ton of bubbles. And then I have another air stone that goes into the back here, and it's buried down under the gravel. And it used to be that every so often some big bubbles would come up out of the gravel, but I honestly don't even know. Oh, there you go. There's some bubbles. And when they rise up, they go right through the stream of that, where they get, destroyed and turned into tiny little micro bubbles and scattered around the tank. So it is going pretty slow. It used to be every few seconds, and this is taking quite a while. There you go. There's another little blast. So probably wouldn't be a bad idea to get in there and replace that air stone. They do get clogged up over time. I've had a lot of people ask me over the years of how you clean your air stones and what. I don't. You can buy a 5-pack of air stones for $3.99 or something. I mean, they're ridiculously cheap. And if, I've said it before, not trying to sound rude or whatever, but like fish keeping costs money. If you can't afford something like a, 49-cent air stone, then maybe fish keeping is not the right hobby. There are some things I do save money on. I buy shop lights instead of aquarium lighting, and I'll go to the Home Depot to buy gravel rather than go to the aquarium store. All that kind of stuff's fine to save money. But when you're down to the point where you're, trying to reuse air stones because you can't afford another 99-cent air stone, then, maybe it's time to think about not having fish or something again. That's my philosophy anyway on the air stone thing. Good way to save money that I always talk about, although I don't really talk about it in terms of saving money, is the way I buy the batting from the sewing section at Walmart, and I use that as filter material rather than buying the actual filter socks. The last time I looked at those filter socks, the ones that are made for that Tetra filter, I think, and it's been probably over 10, longer than that. It's probably been almost since I started keeping fish, but they were like $12 or $13 for a 3-pack of them. It's insane. I don't even know what they cost now. I get them for 7 or 8 cents a piece once you divide up the price of the whole sheet and how many pads I cut out of it. I get them for pennies. So I'm all about saving money, but an air stone for $1 is not where I'm going to worry about it. Mother's milk. That sounds good. Oh, if it's a little techno, maybe that's why I like it, because I don't typically like rap, but I love techno. Matt, how are you doing this evening? I got to look closely at these names now, the way they've got them written out there. They're really hard to read. All right, let me do a dab. I'm actually even using my glass dab straw. I need to order more of these because the ones I have 2 of them, and they both, well, never mind. I was going to say this one has a crack all the way around the tip, but the tip just broke off in my fingers. And so it'll still work. It's just a little blunter. It has a little more wide of a hole in the end there, but we're going to do a dab out of my glass straw here. First, I'm going to go take an emery board and soften those edges so that I don't cut myself, because I can see it's got a flange on it. And we all know how sharp they are. And an emery board works perfect for gently sanding down glass. But let me do it over the trash can and try not to breathe it, because, breathing glass dust is not my idea of a good time. All right, that feels smooth enough. Well, now we don't have to worry about cracking the tip. Well, I guess I still do. I just have to worry about cracking it in a different place now. Yep, and there it goes. It just cracked. I hate these fucking glass straws. To be honest, though, that crack was probably already in there from when it was broken before. But I really hate these glass straws. God damn, it is so good. It has been a long time since I've had good hash oil. Tastes like flowers. God damn, that's good. That's actually the first puff I've taken off of that since I made it. Steve. Tender lips. Not sure what you mean by that. So yeah, I definitely need to order more straws, more dabs. All right, let's go have a look at that plant real quick, especially while I got Steve here, because that's who I really wanted to see this. You know how I'm always talking about you can grow really good big ass weed in a very small place if you grow your own. It obviously depends on the strain. Some strains get bigger buds than others, but this one is fucking massive. Look at the size of that bud. It's about the diameter of a Coke can already. In fact, I had to tie it up because it had fallen over against the side of the tent on the left side there. And so I staked it up and it still wants to fall over. But I mean, it's that big around already. And it's in the, little planter that size. And the whole entire plant is maybe 26, 27 inches tall. I can measure it with a tape measure. But I did want to show you this for comparison. I didn't have a soda can handy, but I do have a butane can. And if you actually hold the butane can up to it, it's about the whole bud is about the same length. But if you put the butane can in front of it, you can actually still see the bud behind it. It's bigger than that. And it is still completely green. There's not a single hair on it is even beginning to change color yet. And while you can't really go by hair color as far as like when to harvest, it's a good indication when it's coming towards the end of its flowering cycle. The hairs will start turning brown, and this hasn't even started that yet. And according to when I put it in there, it's got 3 weeks left to go. So we haven't even really entered into that. Really putting on weight. Like the last couple of weeks, the plant just puts on a massive amount of weight. And we haven't even gotten into that phase of it yet. And it already looks like that. That is going to be such a massive bud when it's done. I cannot wait to see it. So I'm excited about that one. It's been a long time since I grew a fucking shillelagh size chunk of weed like that. You'll bludgeon somebody to death with that after it's dried out. All right, just throwing some vibrobites in there for everyone. Little crack will do me. It was the little crack. Mollies have ick using microbe lift Herbtana. I've never heard of that. Hey, cool guy, how are you doing? Thank you, Dade. Cold press hash? No, I've never even heard of cold press hash. Man, you'd have to press that shit really fucking hard to get it out. In fact, I'm thinking you'd have to press it so hard the pressure would actually generate its own heat and cause it to weep out. But I know about like the pressed stuff and the live resin and all that. Oh, you grow cacti? That's cool. I like cacti. I like succulents in general. We have a lot of them. All right, I'm all caught up on yonder comments. So thank you for the compliment on the angelfish. Oh, that angelfish would be fine with guppies. I've never had a problem mixing angelfish and guppies. The only problem I've ever had with angelfish is neons. And even neons, if they're big enough once they go in the tank, even then the angelfish won't really go after them unless you've got a really big angelfish. If you put brand new neons, when you get the little teeny tiny bastards from the fish store, they'll get picked off really fast by an angelfish. Or any really small like endlers or something like that, I think might be susceptible to getting gobbled up. But guppies are usually okay with angelfish. I've kept them together many times. Um, Again, I've never had pressed hash. I've had dry sift hash plenty of times. I've made that myself. I've bought it. Um, my favorite hash, and this is just for nostalgic reasons, is the black hash, which I have fairly recently learned is rolled hash. It's hand rolled. They just like run their fingers over the stems and leaves until they've got like hash all over their hands, and then they rub it all off into these big black gooey globs of hash. It's almost the consistency of like a Tootsie Roll, but a little bit softer than a Tootsie Roll. And if you break it, it almost looks like the inside of a Tootsie Roll. It's got that sort of semi-porous looking look to it. Like if I could get my hands on some of that, I would love it because that would just take me right back to being a teenager. That was the hash that's what I thought hash was until I got older and found out there's a lot of varieties of hash. And of course, the dry sift is the easiest. I do have some ice water bags, and I could either do ice water or I could do it dry with dry ice. But I never have. It takes a fair whack of weed to do that, and I don't really want to put 5 ounces of weed in a bag just to make hash out of it. So I usually just make hash oil because it's a really good way to really super concentrate what I want and get rid of everything else. Whereas with the dry sift hash, even if you've got really, really fine stuff, you're still smoking plant material in with it and everything, which isn't a big deal when it's the hash. Um, but smoking the plant itself, I can only do that so much. My lungs are too old for that shit. I smoked Marlboro Reds for 35 years, so I try to avoid smoking as much as possible. Yeah, I've never had bubble hash before. Janice, nobody knows why the names look different. I guess YouTube's just doing something different, but I hate it. Yeah, everybody has random numbers behind their name. It's nobody thinks twice about what that number means. Yeah, it looks weird, so my brain has to adjust because nobody's name looks like what I'm used to seeing it like, and it's smaller. The text is smaller, which makes it even harder for me to read because I'm not getting any younger. I keep remembering my birthday. I should say I keep forgetting. Although if I keep forgetting, I also keep remembering. I guess either way works. Um, I keep forgetting, remembering that my birthday is like a fucking week away. I'm going to be 54. I had an almost panic attack yesterday because I thought I was going to be 55. I was like, holy shit, how the fuck did I get to 55? And then I had to do some math and I ran, no, all right, I'm still 54. So I'm going to be 54 in like a week. Oh, let's see. Shirley, how are you doing this evening? All right, give me a minute. We'll move on to the next tank. I'm not used to doing dabs. It's amazing how your tolerance goes up and down depending on. And remember, since I've been puffing on the nicotine, I haven't been smoking anywhere near as much weed as I used to. So I literally might smoke 2 or 3 joints in an entire day from the time I wake up till 1 in the morning when I go to bed. I might smoke 3 joints all day. Um, I used to smoke twice as much as that in a single live stream, or any given afternoon. I would smoke 3 or 4 joints worth of weed in a few hours, and I just don't smoke like that anymore. And I haven't, done good quality hash oil in months. And I did my first. I made 2 batches. I made a small batch out of one bit of weed, and then what you saw was the second batch that I just tasted for the first time. And goddamn, was it good! But the other batch, when I did a hit of that, I was just like, holy shit, I couldn't believe how high I got off of it. It's been a long time. Yeah, not everybody has a number. Shirley, for example, doesn't have a number. Eugene doesn't have a number, but a lot of people do. So I have no idea what's going on with that. Yeah, I'm assuming you can get in there and change whatever your screen name comes up as. All right, let's move on to the next tank, and we do have a casualty to take care of in this tank. If you'll look right there, that is a dead gourami. So the first thing I'm going to do is get in there and get that out. I don't mind father fishing some of the smaller stuff, particularly if it's just something that I know died and disappeared into the back somewhere. But if it's lying right up front like that, and it's a somewhat larger fish, we're going to go in there and get it out. If it was a neon or a guppy or something that size, I'd just leave it in there because the snails would have it out of there by tomorrow anyway. But again, this is a gourami, so let's just get it out of there. Oh yeah, it's already been in there for a while. It explains why we had a missing one the other day. So I don't know how much you guys want to see a dead fish, but you can see it's pretty dead. Oh Jesus, God, does it stink? Let me go get rid of this immediately. Holy shit. Yeah, that's definitely been dead for more than a day. Let me wash my hands. Wash them in bleach or something. I'm going to use my Gojo hand cleaner. Probably still won't get that fucking stink off. God, that was nasty. Nothing was as nasty, no, at least fish-wise, as that when I pulled that snakeskin gourami out of there. That was so foul. I didn't actually pull it out. I vacuumed it out. Well, some of it. I attempted to pull some of it out, but it kind of ran through my fingers. All right, let me measure that plant real quick while I'm standing here. Oh, it's much taller than I thought. I said like 27 inches. It's actually like 37 inches. So a little over 3 feet tall. Wow. All right, going to get some osium. And I will say this again, if you're not familiar with this, this is the best air freshener in the world. And I get the vanilla flavored, but the original is good too. Do not get the stuff that is it's black something. I can't remember what it was. I bought that by accident one day, and I did not like it at all. It smelled like a teenager's cologne. It was like black ice or something like that. It was nasty. But the vanilla is kind of nice, and then the regular smell is also nice. It just sort of smells fresh. But osium is absolutely amazing when it comes to being an air freshener. All right, let's throw some. Actually, let's throw some. What are we going to throw in there? Let's throw some crisps in there tonight. Whole lot of them, apparently. I think I scooped out a little more than I wanted to, but whatever. My fish have been overfed before. If it was how much money you had, my name would just say broke ass bitch next to it. All right, Shirley, enjoy your break. Oh, that sucks, Mike. All right, yeah, all right, Steve, fair enough. Vanilla scented. Well, I stand by what I said, Shirley. If you can't afford a 49-cent Airstone, then fish keeping might not be the best hobby. Robert, I just stocked up my little 20 with 7 what were they called? 7 brilliant Resporas, and then I did 7 black neons, and I did that betta fish in there, and that cost me almost $70 just to stock up that little 20. And it's not even fully stocked. I'd like to add a like a rubber lip or a clown pleco. I always thought there was a clown pleco in there, but I haven't seen it in forever. And so I don't know if it's still in there. In fact, I don't think it is because of the way the stuff grows on the glass. I don't see any. Actually, now that I'm saying that, I do see some toothy scraped marks. I wonder if he still is in there, if that's from snails. No, that looks like that's snail. Yeah, that's a snail. Never mind. So no, I don't even see any like toothy scrape marks on the glass or anything. I'm assuming I don't have any kind of pleco in there. Shirley's leaving. Why is Shirley leaving? All right. I lost my train of thought. That's not unusual. What was I talking about? I don't even remember now. Anyway. I guess we can actually do a little bit of work in the 20 since I do have it restocked and I got new fish in there. I really need to get in there and back out some of the hair algae and the Java moss that's growing out of control. And I want to get that glass wiped down. I got actually pretty fish in there to look at now. So, you know, I'd like to be able to see them. So let's move on. Well, it's almost 9 o'clock already. We're moving fast. I didn't even realize. It's weird how some nights go by so quickly and others seem to drag on. All right, and tonight in this tank, we are just going to do some granules. I got more fish on the bottom than I do swimming around in the tank. So this will probably be the next tank I work on, trying to kind of get livened to back up and restocked. I really want to put some neons in the 55. I think they would look absolutely amazing. I just am not ready to pull the trigger on some neons yet. And I also really am still thinking about putting neons in the little shrimp tank. When my wife was in here yesterday looking around with me, I talked to her about it, and she said that would look awesome in there. They'd look fantastic. So it's cloudy again, though, so I don't know what's going on with that. I'm thinking at this point I might be better off putting a small air stone or possibly even one of those little tiny sponge filters that you can get and maybe putting that in there because it just won't clear up. And it's not a safety issue. The shrimp have been thriving in there for months like this. It's a cycle issue. It's just it needs more filtration. So I'm thinking about sprucing that tank up a little bit too here in the very near future. But again, it's just a matter of money. I just dropped $70 on the one tank. I got to wait at least until another cycle of money comes in next month. And then I might be able to get some more. But we shall see. All right, let's keep it moving. There's not a lot going on in this tank, and it's more glare than it is fish. We can skip over the 40 because that one looks like gunk. But I do, before we go any further, I do want to, well, I can't really lower you much more, but I can angle you downwards. You see all these snails on this front glass. I don't know how well you can see them or not, but there's a lot of them. So we're going to start all the way down at the bottom, and we're going to get the side and the front. And I'm going to get as many of them as I can. A few are probably going to fall back into the tank. Come on, you bastard. I got one on the tip of my finger, and it won't. There it goes. I got it. So got a nice little handful of snails there. And what I'm going to do with that nice little handful of snails is drop them in here. And the loaches will love them. So As I've said many a time, I do not consider those snails nuisance snails. But in this particular tank we just took them out of, I do keep that tank set up specifically for breeding shrimp. And so I feed the crap out of it, and there's nothing in there really to compete with them other than the shrimp. And so the snails in that tank get out of control, and they make good food. I do the other thing, same thing in my other snail tank. I just use it as a way when I get excess snails in there, they go in for food. My actual tanks, the tanks that I fish in them, don't look like that. I don't get the overpopulation, crazy amount of snails in them because I don't feed them the same way. All right, we got a bucket. Dear Liza, I need to put something on that lid because it won't stay open by itself. I use these empty cat litter buckets, and it's nice that they got a lid because I can close it when I walk and I don't get any splashing. But the plastic on this lid is still kind of stiff, and so it wants to close up on me. I got to put a weight on it to hold it open. But we're going to work on a lot of that gunk in the back. Man, I'm going to try not to remove any fish or shrimp. And it's going to be a challenge to even, I'm pulling such huge chunks out of here. It's just getting stuck. So let's do this. Jesus, I can't even pull it back out. Get on out of there. Damn it. All right, let's do it this way. Man, that's coming off in huge masses. All right, I can't even see what's in there anymore, so we're just going to do a water change. Let me see if I can get some stuff out of this corner. Oh, look, there's no face swimming around. Get some of these dead snail shells out of here. All right, and that is just about all we can get. All right, let me throw that over there. Let me get this bucket out of my way, then we'll get the glass wiped down and fill her back up. I swear to God, these things get heavier every time I do this. All right. Whew. That was at work. I think I have a pad cut up here already. So we're just going to use a single little pad here, ought to be plenty. All right, now let me get some water to fill that back up with. I fortunately already have a 2-gallon watering can here full. And Neil, if you're still watching, this is the tank that I threw the Anubias in. And so if you get it, I'll do my best to rinse it off, and I'll try to get all the duckweed off of it. But duckweed is insidious for tagging along and hitching a ride. So be warned that there could possibly be some duckweed associated with this. And I'm also going to clear off the filter intake because that's barely flowing. And I get the impression it's got a lot of gunk in it. Yeah, there's so much of this moss in there. Hey, you might actually even be able to see the piece of wood that's in there once I clear some of this moss out. Oh, there's a dead fish floating too. It's one of the black neons. I should save that for my to return it. Let me go put that in a baggie and throw it in the freezer. Phew, this one stinks too. I'm gonna have to wash my hands again. All right, let me get this in the freezer. Oh, shit, I can't. The freezer's full of stuff, or it's covered in stuff. I'll leave it here for now. It's not like it's going to stink that much worse in an hour. Let me wash my hands real quick. All right. Now back to the filling of the tank. Actually, you know what? My hose actually reaches in there. Let me just do this instead of filling up a watering can. I have a bypass hose run from my well directly to this hose. So this is groundwater. It hasn't gone through my water system at all. This is just water straight out of my well. So after a minute or two, once my X-Troll tank empties, then it'll actually be pumping water directly out of the ground, and we'll get cold water going in here for the last little bit of it, but the tank will warm back up soon enough. Oh, I forgot. The reason the filter is barely flowing is I turned it all the way down. When I put the betta fish in there, it seemed like it was struggling a little bit in the current. Yeah, I can feel how cold this hose is in my hand. It's going to start sweating soon. Water's going to start condensing on it. It's like the temperature of, a spring. It's 56 or 57 degrees. Hang on there, little guy. We're almost done. Poor little betta fish is getting battered. Gonna have duckweed all over everything. It'll all float back up to the top eventually, but for a while it's gonna look like it snowed, except it's gonna be duckweed all over everything. All right, that's good enough. All right, get the hose put away. All right, there you go, everybody. We'll come back and look at that in a little bit once the dust settles. But in the meantime, we can get on with feeding the discus tank. I'll get caught up on comments. All right, we're going to stick with the crisps in this tank. Wow, this feels like bath water compared to the temperature that hose was just in my hand. And it's not even 80 degrees. All right, let me see where I was. All right, there I was. Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards, Arc. A small sponge filter in there. Oh, you got some nice meaty calf. Nice. Why free? Oh, why freezing the dead fish? I forgot about that already. Because I just bought it and I'm going to take it back. And I don't. I'm not going to take it back tomorrow. I'll wait until the receipt is almost used up. I got 14 days, so on the 13th day, however many fish have died, I'll have them all in a bag, and I'll just take them all back and get my money back. Um, what did I pay? I paid $2.99 for the Rasporas, I think, and I paid $3.50 a piece for the black neons, or the other way around. So one way or another, I'm getting $3 a fish back, and so if three of them die, $10 is $10. I can use that $10 to buy a few more of them and replace them. All right, everybody, let's do another dab, and again, this is what we're dabbing on. Lovely, lovely stuff tonight. Let me see if I can get my little flashlight working, give you the backlighting, show you how beautiful golden color this is. That's a little too bright. But there, you get the idea anyway. It's some good looking hash oil. God, it's been so long. And this stuff is amazingly delicious. It really, really tastes like a combination between like citrus fruit and like a flowery flavor. I think it's the Tropicana cookies, which would make sense if it tasted like that. Mm. Mm. Delish. Yeah, I deliberately set it on the bucket that's sitting in there. I basically have to step over it to go in the bathroom now. So I'm forcing myself. Hey, John, how are you? Oh, all right, Ark. What size is my goldfish tank? The fancy goldfish tank is a 40 breeder, but it is too small. I just can't upgrade right now. 55 with 2 and a 70 rated, hang in the back filter. Oh, with 270-gallon. Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't do water changes on that tank very often. The main concern is the biological filtration. I did put a sponge filter in my fancy goldfish tank, but it was because the water was just staying cloudy. And as I said a little while ago about my shrimp tank, cloudy water is indicative of insufficient biological filtration. So as long as you've got enough biological capacity, and 270-gallon hang on the backs may be enough. But if you want, then add a small sponge filter, which is basically designed as a biological filter. It's meant, that's what it really functionally does, is act as a really, really effective biological filter. The sponge filter doesn't draw water through it quickly enough to really pull a lot of detritus and stuff out of the water column the way a hang on the back or a canister filter does. It's got that little, isolated area that's just sucking water in, and all the stuff in the tank gets sucked in through that. A sponge filter moves water through it much more slowly, but because it's moving water through that huge amount of surface area nice and slowly, it just does biological wonders to it. So you're not going to get a lot of physical filtration with the sponge filter, but you get mad biological filtration. So even if you put a small sponge filter in there, I don't think you'd have any issue with 3 goldfish in a 55. Again, I'm doing it biologically. I'm pulling it off in a 40. They probably need a little more room to swim around, but biologically the tank is still healthy. So the sponge filter is going to be your friend there. All right, let me see. I'm just checking all these notifications to make sure I didn't miss anything important. I got a tip yesterday on my OnlyFans. So that's another $8 that's going to go in my pocket at the end of the month. All right, there we go. God damn, how many times do I have to hit clear to clear them out? No, we're not getting any details. That's more details than probably some people even wanted to hear in the first place. So we're definitely not going into details. All right, let's have a look back at this tank. It's already starting to clear up quite a bit. This mass right here is actually African water fern, but it's been eaten by the triffid of the Java moss. That's just Java moss growing all over that fern, which sucks. But if I get in there and start yanking on it, it's going to separate it from the piece of wood that you can now clearly see. There's a whole branch in there. It goes all the way across the length of the tank. But that Java moss was just growing over it. So, prolifically, you couldn't see anything. But it's actually a nicely scaped tank. I got some nice rocks in there. They're all uniform rocks. They're all the same kind, same color scheme. Overall, that tank actually looks pretty nice once we get it less, overgrown and bushy. And of course, when the water sprite looks better, we get all those beautiful roots hanging down into the water, but we haven't had any of them in a while. I don't know if the betta fish eats the roots or not. It might, but remember this tank used to just have that huge chandelier of roots hanging down in it, and it no longer does. I'm a Sagittarius. So yeah, that tank's already starting to clear way up. But if you look at the water flow coming through these filters have a little valve you can turn, and I've barely got it moving right now. But if you turn it all the way the other way, it really puts a crank of water out of it. But you can see, what it does in the tank, and immediately all the fish are swimming in current, and my poor little betta fish back there. They're not set up to be in a lot of current, so I keep that turned way down. I might have had it turned down a little too low. It was barely moving any water through it. But we'll put it something like that. It doesn't matter if there's a little bit of current in the tank. He is a fish. But the anabantoids, the betta fish, the gouramis, there's a few others in that family, the labyrinth fish, they all come from very still water. It's, they're labyrinth fish. They evolved to be able to breathe in very poor oxygenated water because they live in very still water. And so they're not fish that are equipped to be in a lot of flowing water and current. And especially since we've, made them look the way they look now. A wild betta fish doesn't look like that with all those crazy flowing fins and everything. So current for a betta fish is a no-no. You definitely don't want to have your betta fish in a tank with a lot of current swimming around in it, or flowing around in it. I was looking at the school of fish swimming by. I'm partially happy the way they all just lump together almost immediately into a school and are just swimming around the tank like that. But at the same time, I was kind of hoping they would self-segregate and I'd have two individual schools moving around. But they still flow together quite nicely and make a nice big fat school when they're swimming. And they're all sparkly and shiny and good looking. So probably not entirely done with this tank, but we're getting there. I'm still thinking I might add a few guppies because I absolutely love me some guppies. And this tank would be a good tank to have some guppies in it. I like the little shrimp swimming across the front of the tank there. So, all right, everybody, I think that's about it. And I'm going to come over and grace your screens with my presence. Get my camera angle set up here properly. Get my ring light in position because I'm a regular influencer. You gotta have a ring light if you're an influencer. Put my flashlight away because we won't be needing that. Let's see, I got my dabs, I got my torch, I got my other stuff, I got my nicotine, I got my tablet, and that is all we need. I'm here. Earlier I asked if anybody wanted to hear about conspiracy. My computer speaker box thing responded to me, and I don't know why. Anyway, I asked earlier if anybody wanted to hear about conspiracy theorists, and what else was I thinking about? Critical thinking skills. What I was thinking about in the shower is people that say they think for themselves. And so I was thinking about that. I'm just thinking about thinking in general. So if anybody wants me to go into that, I would be more than happy to. Something was said in a Doctor Who episode the other day that made me laugh, and I was like, yeah, that's fucking just about that's, you know, that says it all right there. And that's kind of what got me on this whole train of thought, between that and the what we were talking about the other night with Paul McCartney and the conspiracy theory that Paul McCartney had died and they were secretly replaced him with a different singer or whatever, and how much fun that one was. So anyway, let me know if you want to hear about that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I will talk about whatever. Let's see. Maybe, Mike, I think it's getting a little chilly to ship fish unless you ship them with like a heater pack and all that stuff. And honestly, for the money and effort, I can just go to the PetSmart and buy some guppies. I appreciate the offer, but it's probably more trouble than it's worth. No, Janice, that beautiful koi died in my office tank, the blue, red, white, and blue one. That one actually died before the blue one down here, which is the first one I got. So that one upstairs in my office was fairly short-lived. I did replace it with another beautiful half moon. It's blue and red. And then when Gilgalad died, I replaced him with No Face there. I didn't say I wanted to talk about conspiracy theories. I said conspiracy theorists, the people. That's a good one, Mike. It was a bummer, Janice. AJ and Hecklefish do a great job. Don't know what AJ or Hecklefish are. Not sure. Well, I will talk about the thing that I think is hilarious about the conspiracy theory and the belief in them in general. And all of them always sort of revolve around this idea, like with the Beatles thing is a great example. And I can also use money as another one. But with the Beatles thing, if you don't know the story about the whole Paul McCartney dying and whatnot, the story goes that Paul McCartney was killed in a car crash right at the heyday of the Beatles' fame. And so since they didn't want to derail the money train, they secretly replaced him with this guy named Billy Shears. And he was an exact duplicate, sound alike, and everything. And in the next album they put out, it was, I can't remember, is it Abbey Road? It's the one where they're all walking across the zebra crossing in the street. The famous one that everybody takes the picture of. I think that's Abbey Road. in that album, Paul McCartney was the only one that had bare feet on. And in some of the songs, you can hear somebody kind of in the background, like there's a car crash and somebody saying, "Help me, Father, I'm dying," or something. There's one line in a song about, forgive me if I sing off key. And another one talks about introducing the one and only Billy Shears. And then he sings about, forgive me if I sound a little funny. So there's all these hints and clues that are all laid out in the album that if you're smart enough, you can figure out, the mystery behind Paul McCartney's dying. The same goes with the money, the Illuminati or whoever the fuck it's supposed to be control our money and everything. And you can tell by looking at the money, and you can see that little pyramid and that eye thing, and then that number means something or whatever. So the point being is, if you were going to do a conspiracy and really secretly do something, would you then lay all these clues that allow the clever person to figure out what you did? Like, aha, damn it, you got me. You figured out my puzzle. What is there, like some cosmic sense of justice that, like, if you're going to do a conspiracy, you got to leave a trail of clues. Otherwise, it's not fair. You got to make sure somebody can figure it out once you do it. And they're all like that. Every conspiracy theory revolves around all these little hidden things that are there if you know what you're looking for. And, I always just find that ridiculous. And then the other aspect that I think is funny is how you'll hear someone talking about, just at a random whatever, this rich and powerful person had all these other people silenced and killed because, they were trying to spread the word about what he'd done or whatever. And like, did it ever cross your mind that, like, maybe if you were really like putting this out there publicly on a YouTube channel, maybe they might silence you too? It's odd that they don't silence you, but they silence all those other rich, powerful people. But they're going to let you say this on YouTube every day without silencing you. That always strikes me as a little odd. But it never seems to occur to the people that, delve into this stuff. It fascinates me. I'm always just absolutely fascinated by human beings. I don't think I'll ever understand people, but I'm always fascinated by them. So that's all I was really thinking about with that kind of stuff. But no, personally, I do not believe that Paul McCartney died. Nor do I believe the Illuminati controls our money. Ooh, indeed. I don't know what being Aquarius is supposed to mean, Mike. Are Aquarius supposed to be people that tend to believe conspiracies? I'm not saying they're not fun. Some of them are a blast, but taking them seriously as though it's actually a real thing is a different story. Well, the thing that was said in the Doctor Who episode that I found so funny was something I've actually talked about before, which is people's perception. And there's this argument I have with my friend about the difference between, I always say that perception is reality, and he always argues that it's not. Just because somebody perceives something some way doesn't mean that's the way it actually is. And I understand that. I know there's an objective reality, but someone's perception of what they think, let's just say there's no lion hiding in the bushes. That's the actual objective reality, is there's no lion there. But if the person believes there's a lion there, they're going to behave as though there's a lion there. And so for them, their perception of reality is more important than what the objective reality is. And so I was watching this Doctor Who episode, and it was set in England, and it was like an old village, and the old lady was sort of, I won't say she was a witch, but it's kind of like she was one of those kind of seers, and people in the village would come to her and ask her questions and stuff like that. So her grandson was arguing with her about, I can't remember what the actual argument was about, but he talked about, things being real, or she talked about like ghosts or something. And he was like, but Gran, ghosts aren't real. And she's like, yeah, but people believe they are. And he said, well, so what? A long time ago, people believed the earth was flat. That doesn't mean it is. And she's like, yeah, but they behaved as though it was, which is just funny in its own right as a gag. But she's making a good point about if everybody thinks it's this way, they're going to behave as though it's that way. So that's where the whole idea of like education and, learning and all that kind of stuff comes into play. But I did find that line hilarious, that people behaved as though the earth was flat. So, all right, I didn't lose too many people there, only about 10 of you, so that's not too bad. All right. Zini is not one of my discus. Well, that didn't sound right, Zini. Zini is my other brain, or the other half of my brain, or a different timeline of my brain. So he might be my alter ego trolling us. That's a possibility. But he's definitely not one of my fish. But I do believe in some kind of way we do sort of share brains somehow. I don't know how, but apparently we do. It's uncanny. It's almost a little concerning. I got to stop talking while I got shit in my lungs. All right, everybody. What else do you want to talk about? You got plenty of time left. I already got you warmed up with some good controversial stuff. Got a few of you left. I told Zini that if I talked about what he wanted to talk about, it would just be me and him. I figured if I talked about the conspiracy theory stuff, I would watch my number just plummet. It didn't go down as far as I was expecting it to, so that's something, I guess. But that's what's been on my mind, and as you guys know, I generally, if it's within reason, borderline, if that's what's on my mind, that's what I'm going to talk about. Oh God, I hope not, Mike. I'm going to need a DNA test on that one. I'm sorry. We might share a brain, but I don't think we share any DNA. There was a brief period of my life where I didn't know if maybe I might have been a father. I'm not a one-night stand kind of person or ever, but I did have one on this one occasion. Or it was close enough to a one-night stand that we can call it that. And about 3 months later, I heard about this woman. She was now living down in Kentucky or someplace like that. She had moved, and she was 3 months pregnant. And I just about had a heart attack and died. I was like 18 at the time or something. And just for the longest time, for years, I wondered whether or not I got a kid out there floating around somewhere. I did eventually find out that she had a lot of other kids that I didn't even know about. And like, let's just say she wasn't the most purest of all women. And so I kind of just... the other thing was all of the fathers had custody of all the kids, which is why I didn't know she had all those kids. And also reassured me that if it was mine, she'd probably be trying to dump it on me. So I long ago gave up the idea that I got a kid floating around out there. But up until I was maybe 30, I kind of wondered if, someday some 18-year-old was going to knock on my door and say, I'm your son. But I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. Red Ed, how are you doing? might have been Zini. I don't know. Where were you born, Zini? What is the highest percentage weed that I have? I honestly have no idea. Um, Probably in the 20s, I would say. First of all, when you buy a seed and the seed says, this strain contains 31% or whatever, that's under ideal conditions. That's the most they've ever tested out of it. I'm assuming, I doubt it's like the low end average, just so you don't get your expectations up. They're probably marketing it as like, that one time we got that one bud that was 31%. So you can't really go by that when you're doing a home grow, because what my conditions are and all that aren't going to be optimal. But I do grow some really dank bud. It's too late now, but we looked at one of my buds earlier, and it's a little plant, but the cola on it is almost the diameter of a Coke can already. And it's got weeks to go. It hasn't even entered its like rapid growth phase yet. So I grow dank weed. I grow really serious buds. When you look at them, they're just dusty. They're just covered in crystals. So I don't know what the actual percentage is, but it's better than anything I can buy at the store around here, at least in my stores. I know other people say that the stuff they get in their stores is great. I disagree. And maybe if they ever tried my stuff, maybe they'd agree with me that mine's better than what they get in their stores too. I don't know what they have to compare it to. So, just because somebody else says, "Oh, it's the best stuff I've ever had," like, okay, I don't know what other stuff you've had, so that doesn't mean a whole lot to me necessarily. But I do know what I grow, and I do know what I can buy at the stores here, and I'll take my shit any day over the stuff I get at the stores. If you're asking what the strongest I've ever had is, I bought some stuff at the store that was rated at 41%. And I don't know if it really was 41% or not, but it fucking knocked my socks off. That shit was potent. It was like smoking hash. It was so potent. So, hash is like 50%. So it was getting up into the neighborhood of hash. It was still dry. It didn't have a good flavor. It was still rough on the throat and everything, but it was potent. I'll give it that. All right, Dade. Thanks for stopping by. You have a good night. Oh no, I'm not comparing it to like, brickweed or anything like that. It's just one of those arbitrary comments. I don't know what other weed you've ever smoked, so I don't know what you are comparing it to. I mean, it's just, I don't know what you've smoked before. And I'm not saying, like, when I say the stuff at the store is shit, I'm not saying it in the terms, again, like Mexican brickweed. It's just commercially grown stuff. It's potent. And you don't get any seeds or anything in it. You get your nice little nuggets and whatnot, but it's really, really dry. It's rough on my throat. It's just got a raw, feel to it when you're inhaling it. It's not particularly flavorful. It smells nice when you open it, but when you smoke it, it's not the same thing. When I properly dry and cure my bud and everything, it's amazing. It's amazing weed. It's so much better than what I get in my stores as far as the experience. If you're just going by THC and potency, I don't know if what I have is as potent as the stuff that's at the store. Again, it would depend on the strain. My store sells stuff that's 15%. I'm sure my weed is much stronger than that. But there's no way it's, up in the upper 30s or anything. I wouldn't even think it's in the 30s. Again, I put it in the mid 20s, probably. But once I make it into hash oil, that makes it something completely different. Then it becomes extremely potent. Speaking of which, I am going to do another dab. I actually, for anybody just joining us, I took my weed that I finally got a good batch of weed. And even though it's not cured yet, so it's not ready to be smoked, you can make hash oil out of it pretty much as soon as you harvest it. And the quality of the hash oil comes out really good. And so that's what I did with a small amount of it. Actually, I'll show you the plant I cut down. I got it hanging up in the other room drying. I cut 4 of the bottom branches off, and that's what we made into this. Give me a second. I'll be right back. And again, I believe this is Tropicana cookies. I had it labeled as Tropicana cookies, but I also had a question mark next to the label. And whenever I do that, it's because I'm not 100% certain. I'd mix things up when I was transplanting them, or I forgot to label it and had to come back the next day and say, shit, which one was that? Etc. So I'm going to have to move the camera back a little for this. But that is what I just harvested. So the bud's kind of loose. It's not a real dense bud, but I got a lot of them. And you can see I cut those bottom 4 branches off, and that's what we made into the hash oil. So I just cut this down yesterday. It's got a ways to go before it's even dry, let alone ready to start the curing process. But I've already got some other stuff that's in the cabinet and curing, so that's got a couple more weeks to go. And I will finally have some really good, properly cured weed again. It's been so long. So I could dry that thing out and hang some Christmas decorations on it. That's close enough. Let me see where I was. Gary Payton? I never heard of that. I was going to go buy, I've got those little 510 batteries now from when I first started vaping. I was using those little cartridges before I switched over to a larger mod. But I thought about getting one, and when I went on the weed store and looked at their prices, the cheapest one I could find was $28, and that was for 0.5 grams. The cheapest 1 gram cartridge I could find was $41, and I'm just not going to pay that much money. I'll show you what I've got. Tropical cherry, that sounds awesome. I've never heard of the pink Cadillac either. Or tropical berry. They're constantly coming out with new strains, and I haven't been to the weed store in like a year. 31%, that's pretty solid. Whenever I did shop at the weed store, I would never look at anything under 30%. I figure if I'm spending this much money, I definitely want to get my potency out of it. 29.8, that's close enough. Baby formula in a jar, that's weird. What the, oh God. I had a, Amnesia Haze, that's what it was. The Amnesia Haze I got was 41%. And again, it's as close to smoking hash as I've ever smoked in a bud before. That was some amazing shit. I actually looked like I would go back, checking to see if they had that again. I would have gone and spent the money to get that stuff again. That stuff was amazing. But that, again, 41% is what it was labeled at. Oh, that sounds awesome, Ed. Let me show you. I conglomerated all of my various. Remember, I was saying earlier how I had all the different lower grade hash oil. I had some reclaim. So I put them all together in one container, and that's what I've got. So that is about half deep with goo. Not the best quality, not the best flavor, but it gets the job done. What I'll do with this is I'll make this into a batch. Well, honestly, if I made that into a batch of cookies, it would be like you'd have to make cookies about the size of a nickel. That would be some potent ass cookies if I put all of that into cookies. The cookies I made for Steve before, that he said, even one of them was, crazy. It was nowhere near that amount. I think what I did before was probably about 8 grams worth of concentrate. That kind of concentrate, just reclaim and stuff like that, lower quality stuff. I just used that to make cookies out of it. And I think I used like 8 grams of it in the batch of cookies. That's got to be, I don't know, 20 grams. I can weigh it real roughly. I'm not 100% sure how much the container weighs, but I do have an empty one. We can get a rough idea. They're usually within 0.1 grams of each other. I've spent a lot of time measuring and weighing all these different things out to make sure I know what weighs what and so on and so forth. So if we get one weight, I'm confident enough that if we just tear it out and then replace it with this one, that'll give us an accurate reading. Nope, I was wrong. 11.7 grams. So that's still quite a bit more than what I made that batch of cookies out of before, but it was nowhere near the 20 grams I thought it was. 11.5 grams. And like I said, it's, it'll get the job done if you're desperate, but I'm not that desperate, especially now that I got some good stuff again. It's been a long time coming, but I finally got it. Yeah, Steve gave me some moon rocks once, and they were fucking fantastic. It was gelato, and like all of it was gelato. It was gelato bud, gelato hash oil, rolled in gelato hash, and oh my god, was that good. I did buy some more, but I bought it through that 420 Meds, the website where you can just order weed and get it delivered to your house. I've gotten hash from them, which was amazing. But these moon rocks I got, and I'll grant you, I bought like the cheapest ones there. It was one of those like, this is too good to be true, and it was. They were not the same. They like popped and crackled, and they had a harsh, almost like a chemical taste to them. I almost wonder if they weren't synthetic THC or something. I don't know. Like I never even finished smoking them. They were gross. But the ones Steve gave me were amazing. And that's where I got the idea. Remember when I used to smoke bowls and I would just soak the bowl with the hash oil? That's where I got that idea from. It had never crossed my mind that you could just soak weed in hash oil and smoke it that way. It makes for a way better bowl, but you got to have decent quality hash oil. So again, now that I got good stuff, I can probably go back to smoking some bowls. I've already been trying to think if there's a way I can get some hash oil into my joints. But I smoke the cones, and so I don't know how I'd really, unless I smeared some on the outside of the paper or something, and I don't know how well I'd be inhaling that or whether it would just burn away and I'd be wasting it. But when I get to the point where I've got plenty, I might try doing that. I might take a cone and smear some hash oil on the paper before I pack it up or after I pack it up. That'll be interesting. It did look like venom in a cup there, didn't it? Didn't know I was keeping him in my basement. I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but I've got both my chocolate zebra plecos out here tonight. So that's the visitor. And then that's the resident that lives in that cave. And I don't know if a moment ago you just saw that cloud kick up. It's because they were right next to each other. And then that one swam back into its cave. So that one's actually a pretty good size. It's, I don't know how old it is, maybe 13, 12. It's well over 10. I know that. But we don't see this one too often. Again, this one lives in this cave here, and we see it all the damn time. We got visitors giving you the hairy eyeball. Do you think they know they're looking into a camera? My guess is probably not. Oh, get on out of here. Those discus really are some amazing fish. Let's go look at that other one. This is the one I like to look at when I come down here on mushrooms. If he turns sideways, I'm trying to see the monitor from where I'm standing, but it's not easy. Of course, discus, like angelfish, always don't cooperate by pointing themselves straight at you when you're trying to look at them. I don't know how much blue comes across on camera, but this thing has a ton of blue in it. It's absolutely stunning. Both the dorsal and the anal fins are just loaded with that sort of iridescent blue color. Absolutely amazing. This angelfish, I know, does not come across on camera, but this is another really good looking fish. Matt, I don't know if Matt's still watching, but Matt gave me that discus, this angelfish, and the two other discus I have in the 40. They all came from Matt. They were all teeny tiny little things when I got them, but they're all big and beautiful now. And of course, they still have a long way to go. At least the discus do. The angelfish is getting pretty chunky. But this one's got a ton of subtle color in it too. It looks really dark, but it is a lace zebra. So when you look really close, if it ever turns sideways and you get a good solid look at it, there's all kinds of patterning and markings going on. The tail fin has all these lines in it. It's an amazing looking angelfish. And it also has a lot of the blue and all that in there. See if we can trick him over into going sideways a little bit. But when this one turns the right way in the light, there's a surprising amount of blue in there as well. Let's see if he turns again. I got my fish food sitting in the way of the monitor. I'm having a hard time seeing exactly what I'm pointing the camera at. I'm trying. All right, I'm about to give up here. Well, that gave you a little bit of an idea. It really is a gorgeous angelfish. And trust me, I know angelfish. So, all right, looks like we got some green boxes popping up here. So let's see who we got. No, I'm not going to rub them on my knees. Hey, Bob. Bob, 50 months. My God, time does fly fast. Before you know it, I'm going to have to come up with a new badge. Yeah, it is 2D invisibility. Angelfish and discus are actually lines. 7 months. Third trimester. Oh, well. 12 months. That don't seem right. I'm surprised they don't actually have a black sheep as a emoji. No, time definitely doesn't seem right. I want to say I saw something about time the other day, but it could have just been me watching Doctor Who and not remembering it was just a Doctor Who. I think I saw something about time though the other day in one of my science videos, and I don't remember what the fuck it was now. Oh, it was. It was about how time creates gravity. Yeah, okay. Um, Difficult to explain, but fairly straightforward. It wasn't anything weird about like, well, time itself is weird in the way it bends and that sort of thing. Time and space are actually the same thing. That gets pretty weird, but that's all it was about. It was about gravity. That's just an emote. That's not an emoji. As an emoji, uh, when it's one of the little round faces, or it's not an emoji. You're losing me here. PBS space time. I'm not familiar with that. Well, then how come in the Emoji Movie they had poop and stuff like that? So that's not a face. Well, I guess it does have eyeballs on it, doesn't it? Is that somebody getting angry and flipping over a table, Art? Yeah, I can see that being somebody angry and flipping over a table. That's awesome. Yeah, I see it. That's fantastic. I love it. They're even shouting. They got their mouth open. Um, no, the video, I was thinking it was Anton Petrov. I watch a lot of Anton Petrov's videos, and he does sciencey stuff. But this was actually a video from, I don't know the dude's name. He's kind of weird, and he does stuff. He's been wrong on a few occasions, but I still watch his videos sometimes. It's called The Action Lab. And he actually started a video by saying what I've always said my whole life. I never got the clarification he did, and basically in the video he said he like woke up one night like, oh, now I understand, and so he did a video trying to explain it. But you've probably seen the idea of how a rubber sheet is used to represent space time, and you put the heavy weight in the middle and then all the balls roll around it and fall down towards it. They even refer to it as like a gravity well because it goes down into it. I've always thought that's a bad way to describe gravity because you need gravity to describe gravity. Like that ball thing, like if there was no gravity, the balls wouldn't roll downhill. They roll downhill because of gravity. Like it doesn't explain anything to me. Um, and so he explained how it actually works, and he did a graph explaining the movement through space and time and how it's actually time that's causing you to like move down towards the planet rather than anything else. And I've known for a long time that gravity is not a force. It's got to do with the shape of space more than anything. There's no force pulling you towards anything. But his explanation was pretty good. It made a lot more sense. But again, I'm not going to try to explain it. It gets kind of complicated, and you need graphs and visuals to understand what he's talking about. But yeah, I was never satisfied with that explanation of gravity because you can't use gravity to explain how gravity works. So I got my explanation after all these years. Well, yeah, Zany, but you sent the black dot and the sheep, and so I just assumed those were both emojis. Oh, gravity sucks at my age too. It sucks. It pulls. It tugs. Everything is trying to move downward. No, I didn't see the fifth dimension one. Good band, though. What was I just getting ready to say? Oh, just something about getting old and gravity. Oh, it's not so much that gravity sucks more as you get older. It's the lack of collagen that really sucks. All the shit that holds everything up goes away. All right, I got another. Oh, it's a video from Kane. Kane sent me a picture of the tank he's setting up. He set up a 30 long, and all those plants I pulled out of here the other day went to him, in addition to some other escape and stuff that he had. And he sent me a picture of it. It always looks a little sketchy when you first put a tank together and, the water wasn't completely clear and everything, but it looked really good. And the way he's got it lighted and everything, it's going to grow in really lush. I think it's going to be a good looking tank. So was just checking the notification. I thought it was from Ark, but that was actually from Kane. He sent me a little video, and I'm assuming it's going to be a video of that tank and how it looks now, but I'll save it for later. I guess I'm going to start winding down. We'll get up into first positions at least. It is pushing 10 o'clock. I don't plan on making it a late night tonight. Well, at least not a late live stream. I tried napping tonight before the live stream, but it was one of those experiences where I'm not 100% positive whether I actually dozed off or not. I think I dozed off for a little while, but I didn't even lay down until like 6 o'clock, and I was back up by 6:45. So if I did doze off, it was only for a few minutes. But I feel refreshed, so we'll see how late I wind up staying up tonight. Hopefully not too bad. I got shit I got to get done tomorrow. Oh, I haven't looked at the weather yet, so I'm assuming I have shit to get done tomorrow. If it's going to be rainy weather, I don't. I'll just have a few little oddball errands I got to run. All right. Any final thoughts? All right, Mike, we will catch you on Wednesday. Can't believe it's Sunday already. And it is Thanksgiving this week. And then it's December. I cannot believe how fast this year is screaming by. It's ridiculous. That is definitely something that goes faster as you get older. I did want to actually mention that. I was talking to Zini about that the other day. I watched a video that explained the phenomena of why time seems to speed up the older you get. And it's basically because there's less new stuff for you to process. When you're young, you're experiencing everything that's new, and you're taking time to process that and learn about stuff and think about stuff. But the more life just becomes day to day and humdrum, and you're used to things, and like, I know I myself don't sit around thinking about stuff the way I used to anymore, because I've thought about it all. And like, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about those things anymore. So just one day sort of blends with the next and blends with the next. And before you know it, a week's gone by. And so that's all it is you just get used to life, and your brain isn't processing as much information, and there's not as many new things to stand out to you, and it all just kind of blends together and goes faster. So that's it. Let's ask the all-knowing computer if it knows what an emoji is. Computer, what is an emoji?
Sorry, I don't have an answer for
Why
that.
the fuck not? Goddamn useless piece of shit. I asked it something earlier and it didn't know the answer either. So why the fuck do I even leave you in there listening to everything I say when you don't even know the answers when I ask them? No, that's definitely for sure, Janice. I definitely don't feel refreshed after a 2 hour nap. I do maybe half an hour later. I come back around, but I don't wake up feeling fresh from a 2 hour nap. That is for sure. But that's usually how I do nap. When I fall asleep, I don't have the capacity to doze for 5 minutes and then just wake back up. When I fall asleep, I'm just asleep for 2 hours. So my dad used to do that. The funniest thing ever, and I wasn't there for this, but it was a legendary family story that got told a lot. Um, my family was on a trip. They were driving up to Maine, and it was my mom in the front seat. My dad was in the other front seat, and my cousin and my aunt were sitting in the back. Hey, Voyager, how are you? Um, so my dad was sitting in the front seat. My mom was driving, and my dad said he was going to take a little bit of a nap. And so everyone was like, all right, my dad could fall asleep like anywhere and just he closed his eyes and he was asleep. I toss and turn and think about everything, and my dad just goes to sleep. I don't know how he permanently went to sleep about 15 years ago. But he's driving along and he says, I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to lay down, close my eyes for a little while. And he literally put his head back. He closed his eyes. He did like one deep breath. And then he sat up with his eyes wide open and he wanted to know what state they were in. And everybody started laughing. They thought he was kidding. And he didn't understand why they were laughing. He thought he had slept so long that like he wanted to know where we were on our way to Maine. Like, are we still in the same state? And nobody believed him that like he had fallen asleep and woken back up in that much time and was completely refreshed from his nap. And the whole nap didn't last a second. So that's not the way my brain works. Thank you, Voyager. You can have a quick look around before we get out of here. We've got the pond down here. I'll turn the light back on briefly. So it's all mucked up from feeding time tonight, but that's the koi pond. We got the little waterfall. Now, I forgot to tell everybody, too, about my dragonfly. It had fallen over and was laying down like that. And when I checked, I found out that the metal had rusted through at the bottom and had broken out of the clip. And so now I just got it stuck in there. And when that piece of metal rusts, I'll eventually make a little wooden stake for it. And we'll get to have our little dragonfly hanging out by the pond because I think that's a really cool little ornament. I love that little thing. So we got that. You already saw the discus tank behind me. I got some fancy goldfish down here. And then we got another 125 down here. It's got a bunch of discus and some various fish in there. And we got a 40 over here with a bunch of live bears and angelfish. And we got a 55 with a lot of crypt, a bunch of tetras, and a single discus that's hiding back there next to the air stone. But if you look really closely, you can see that thin line is actually a fish. You got another 55 over here with gouramis, discus, angelfish, tetras, loaches, catfish, and probably some others I'm missing. And we got a 29. It's got an angelfish, not a lot else going on in there. And then we got a 40 over here with a couple of discus and not a lot going on in this tank either. And then we got a 20 over here with a betta fish and some tetras, neon tetras, and then it's rasporas, not tetras. So I got tetras and rasporas in here. And then I got a couple of tanks that I got shrimp growing in. And so that's a quick look around the old fish room. So let's get to turning some lights out. We'll do some disco ball fun for a few minutes. And I guess I'll do one final dab for the night. But we'll do it once we got the lights out and we got the disco ball going. It'll look cooler that way. And I brought in my special purple torch for tonight. I only bust that out on special occasions or when I want to. All right, get the lid off of that. Get my glass heated up. All right. That was a big one. Oh man, that tastes so good. All right. That one's going to ring my bell, so we'll put this away. Whew. Hell yeah. That was a good one. Oh, thank you, Voyager. Yeah, the disco ball is none too pleasant to stand here underneath either, Janice, especially when I got the mushrooms on me, which I didn't take any mushrooms tonight, in case you're wondering. And I say that to everybody, not just you, Janice, but no mushrooms tonight. But when I am on the mushrooms and I'm standing here and the disco ball lights are gone, it's a bit much, especially when I look at the monitor, because I'm seeing the lights are moving at a different speed on the monitor than they are physically around me, and I get this double weird movement, and it makes me feel all fucking off kilter. So yeah, I can see it being a headache or possibly even a seizure warning. All right, everybody, got a couple minutes left, so I'm gonna say this will be your last call. Any last thoughts, last comments? No more complicated questions, but if you have any short questions, I will be happy to take those. And I do want you to stay up for at least a few minutes after the live stream, Zini, because I got some questions I want to ask you, but I'll do that after the live stream's over. So stick around. Oh, well, you can definitely roll out. By the time I get to where it's just disco ball lights, Janice, I'm wrapping it up and saying goodnight. So if you want to skate when I get to that point, I don't want to give you a headache or anything. And like I said, I can only take it for a few minutes before I got to say goodnight myself. So I am going to wind down and get on out of here. All right. Doesn't look like I'm getting any last questions or anything. So I am going to say thanks for watching tonight. I hope you all had a good time. I did, of course. So so long, and thanks for all the fish. I'll see the members on Wednesday, and everybody else, I'll see you all next Friday. Good night.